general election.
Hi. I did. I'm giving everybody homework. So, hi everybody. Is this it? Is this the last round?
Yeah. Congratulations.
And the rumor that there's a bar in the back and beer is not true.
That's false. Okay. Well, we'll check it out. I was going to go look for it.
We've suggested that the millennials would vote if you had years of polls.
I feel legal.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
I kind of wanted, you know, where I just kind of wanted to interject a good gun control question because I went to your gun control and I wrote this question and it didn't get asked.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to ask it now.
Let's do it.
How would you promote gun control, efficient gun control legislation that does not disproportionately send black and brown bodies into the criminal justice system?
Yes. Well, first of all of our gun safety legislation is targeted at preventing gun violence, not at putting people in jail. So, for example, the fingerprint licensing requirement that we did is stopping tens of thousands of straw purchasers every year in Maryland. Because, so if I'm a felon and I want to get a gun, I can send, up until we passed our law, I could send my brother, I could send my friend to go and get it. They would get it and they would come back and give me the gun. Now that person's going to be fingerprinted and they're like, I don't know if I want to go be fingerprinted. And it has been shown in studies from Connecticut and Kentucky that when you have the fingerprint licensing requirement, that gun violence goes down, gun crimes go down, and when you remove that requirement, gun violence and gun crimes go up. So we have made tremendous progress on that. I also introduced the ban on military-style assault weapons, which we got passed as part of this package of gun safety that our great Attorney General, then Senator Brian Frosch, led us on. And that I don't believe that assault weapons has any particular, racial implication. Most of the mass murders that I'm aware of that are taking place are by young white men. I don't know why that's the case, but I don't think that
I want to focus on the racial component because these things aren't necessarily being bought at these gun shows. We're talking about black market dealings here. So if a prick or a blood or something, or an MS-13 member has a AK-47.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? That's those intersections that I'm speaking to.
And the whole purpose of the ban on military-style assault weapons is to keep them from entering the stream of commerce in the first place. But look, you raised the broader question, which I think is totally right. I have been a major champion of criminal justice reform. I introduced and I was the floor leader for abolition of the death penalty. We abolished capital punishment after 4 centuries of having it in the state of Maryland. The first executions that I found that I could talk about on the floor were of escaped slaves, then it was indentured servants who were accused of conspiring to kill their masters, then witches who were being crushed to death on the Eastern Shore, all the way up to today where we had the first death row exoneree on earth, Kirk Bloodsworth, who was exonerated while in prison. And he was convicted of gruesome rape murder of a 9-year-old girl. The prosecutor in the case, Scott Schellenberger, swore 1,000% that he was the guy. He met the FBI portrait, demographic profile perfectly. He met the composite portrait exactly, but he didn't do it. And he begged his lawyer to get a DNA test when he read about it, and the lawyer took $5,000 out of his own pocket and he went and got the DNA test. The only reason that the evidence existed was because the judge's secretary saved it. It was supposed to have been disposed of, but she never believed Bloodsworth was guilty. They did the DNA test, comes back 99.9% certain, could not have been Bloodsworth. And he was white, but the death penalty was operating in a totally racially discriminatory way. It was that we had 5 people on death row, all of them had white victims, and 3/4 of the victims of homicide in the state were African American or Hispanic. So I introduced the Second Chance Act. The Second Chance Act, and I did it with a right-wing Republican, but it says if you're carrying a nonviolent misdemeanor conviction and you've been clean for a period of 3 years, you can go to court and ask for the evidence of it to be shielded from public view, so you can get back in the job market and back into the workforce. We empowered more than 275,000 people, October 1 of last year, to get back into the job market, disproportionately African American and Hispanic. So, and we're about to do more in this session to deal with the massive rise in incarceration and the new Jim Crow that Michelle Alexander wrote about. We are making real progress on that. And it's an important part of what I've wanted to do in Annapolis, and I will do the exact same thing in Washington. I'm proud that I've been endorsed by Congressman John Conyers, who's the senior-most member of Congress, who was the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. He's the ranking Democrat in the Judiciary. He's actually the only American politician ever endorsed by Martin Luther King, and he endorsed me. So by the transitive property. But Conyers said one reason I'm endorsing Jamie is we need him out here on civil rights, civil liberties, and fighting for the kind of criminal justice reforms he's helped make happen in the state of Maryland.
So switching gears a little, being a Tacoma Park resident, I'm really familiar with your work and everything, and know that you are a progressive Democrat, and like that you're a progressive Democrat, but how do you plan on working in such a polarized Republican Congress?
Cool. Well, the first thing is it might not be a Republican Congress, because if they nominate Cruz or Donald Trump, I am predicting and I am working for a landslide Democratic victory that wipes the Republicans out of Congress, because it means they will essentially have resigned any sense of public responsibility if that's who they nominate. And we have to be very clear about that. We get serious issues here. And not just criminal justice reform, which is a necessity, and gun safety, which is a necessity, but climate change is a civilizational emergency. I mean, on the scale of the existence of humanity, we have 15 minutes to get this right, okay? And you ask the Republicans about it, and what do they say? I don't know, I'm not a scientist. As if that were not perfectly clear to all of us by this point, right? But if you're not a scientist, your job is to listen to the scientists. And we got a lot of great scientists right here at NIH and NOAA and FDA, and so listen to the scientists. It's like you go to the doctor, and the doctor tells you you're sick, and you need to get on a medical regimen immediately. You go home, and then your wife or your husband says, so, are you sick? And you say, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Hey, but that's the whole point. You went to the doctor. What is the doctor telling you, right? And the Republican Party, it's like that guy, So, anyway. So I guess what I want to say about that is I am working for a massive Democratic sweep. Having said that, when I got to Annapolis, you got to understand, I was the only outsider, reformer, newbie challenger to win a Democratic primary for Senate when I ran in 2006. Okay? And everybody told me two things. One, you cannot win. It's impossible. You cannot be the 32-year incumbent. You've put in the Senate. And two, even if you won, there's no way you can get anything done, okay? Because the conservatives who run Annapolis are not going to let you abolish the death penalty, pass marriage equality, restore voting rights to the ex-felons, pass tough environmental legislation, and so on. And I am proud to say, a decade later, I've been involved in making every single one of those changes that I fought for when I first ran, and I hope to do the exact same thing when I get to Congress, with your support. Thank you guys.